Hello, Professors Gauss and Hagebrook. This is John Dubovich for EDM 710 SYS, Spring 2019. This is my presentation on climate change and hurricanes. Just a brief overview of the contents. We will start with a brief explanation of what climate change is, go over some of the causes, move into the climate change and hurricanes, and then finally, a brief conclusion. Climate change refers to a broad range of global phenomena created predominantly by burning fossil fuels, which add heat-trapping gases to Earth's atmosphere. These phenomena include the increased temperature trends described by global warming, but also encompass changes such as sea level rise, ice mass loss in Greenland, Antarctica, the Arctic, and mountain glaciers worldwide, shifts in flower and plant blooming, and extreme weather events. Over the years, there has been a change in the climate on our planet. There are differing opinions in the scientific community as to why that is, but what is undeniable is that the intensity of hurricanes has increased. These hurricanes are causing more destruction than ever, and they're costing more and more to respond to and recover from. Improved satellite tracking over the years has made it possible to track hurricanes more consistently, thus providing us with more accurate data. These recent studies suggest that climate change has a lot to do with the increasing severity of hurricanes. They have also shown that global warming is causing a rise in ocean temperatures, particularly in the Atlantic Ocean. Scientists believe that these changes are contributing to the increased severity of hurricanes. Causes. There are many different contributing factors to climate change. Over the years, pollution and greenhouse gases have contributed to global warming. An increase of carbon dioxide, or CO2, and other gases released into the atmosphere by human activity have caused temperatures across the globe to increase due to what is known as the greenhouse effect. This greenhouse effect traps heat in our atmosphere. And as we see here, this is a graph that shows the CO2 concentration over years. And as you can see, it almost replicates itself up until 1950, where we have a huge spike. That trend is continuing today. Since the Industrial Revolution, we have been releasing more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere than ever before. As a result, the Earth's temperature has increased. With the increase in the Earth's temperature, we have also seen a rise in the water temperatures of the oceans. Here we have a good graph depicting the climbing land and ocean temperatures from 1880 up until 2016. What I find interesting, well, one of the interesting facts here is that at 1940, we have a spike in the temperature as well, just like in the previous graph. And for the most part, we see an increasing trend up until more recent times, which also reflects the previous graph. Climate change and hurricanes. The effects that climate change are having on our planet are becoming more clear. Over the last several decades, data has shown an alarming rise in inclement weather around the globe. These developments have had serious consequences in the United States and other parts of the world. Over the past several decades, data shows that the intensity and destructiveness of hurricanes has increased. Category 4 and 5 storms are more likely to form, and these storms have become stronger faster. They have been seen to start as Category 1 storms and within 24 hours strengthen to a Category 4 or 5. This has added to their danger because there is less warning of the severity of the storms, and people may not evacuate when they first hear of the lower category storm approaching. In this graph, which covers 1980 to 2016, it shows that there is a steady upward trend in the number of geophysical, meteorological, hydrological, and climatological events around the globe. Two other factors may also be contributing to the rising intensity of hurricanes. First, warm air holds more water vapor than cold air. Rising air temperatures since the 1970s have caused atmospheric water vapor content to rise as well. This increased moisture provides additional fuel for hurricanes. Second, as ocean temperatures rise, there is also less cold subsurface ocean water to serve as a braking mechanism for hurricanes. When strong storm winds churn up cold subsurface water, the cooler waters can serve to weaken the storm. But if deeper waters become too warm, this natural braking mechanism weakens. This is depicted here on the slide in the graphic. It helps us to better understand what is taking place. One of these examples was Hurricane Katrina. It intensified significantly when it hit deep pools of warm water in the Gulf of Mexico, And Katrina, it intensified just before hitting Louisiana, causing one of the most deadliest and costliest natural events in U.S. history. The intensity, frequency, and duration of North Atlantic hurricanes, as well as the frequency of the strongest Category 4 and 5 hurricanes, have all increased since the early 1980s. Since the mid-1970s, the number of hurricanes that reach Categories 4 and 5 in strength has roughly doubled, which is an alarming set of data. Climate change is increasingly having a profound influence on our world today. If the current trends of greenhouse gas emissions continue, the adverse effects of climate change will continue, or perhaps even get worse as time progresses. These tendencies will endanger millions of people that live in areas where hurricanes are likely to strike, such as coastal areas. Unfortunately, these are the areas where people are moving to most. As a result, more people could potentially be adversely affected by hurricanes in the future. With the increase in temperatures across the globe, the water levels will begin to rise. This would cause massive flooding of coastal areas. If the sea levels would rise just a few feet, the implications could change the landmass of our country, especially low-lying areas, such as areas with elevations at or below sea level, such as in Florida. This is a very interesting picture here that shows what would happen to South Beach, Miami, if global temperatures were to rise just by 2 degrees Celsius. Obviously, this is a very stunning picture, and it shows just a fraction of what could happen to our planet and our country and other low-lying areas in the world if these if the temperatures continue to rise and the ocean levels rise. And we could just imagine the death toll and financial implications that this could have. With hurricanes becoming more destructive, the inherent dangers that come with them increase as well. They have been causing more damage, subsequently costing more to respond to. The rising cost of hurricanes is partly due to the increase in population density on and near coastlines over the years. A lot of people are flocking to coastlines because, let's be honest, it's beautiful there, especially when not being hit by a hurricane. And there are a lot of job opportunities around these areas as well. In these two graphs, we have on the left, the 2018 weather and climate disasters, which reached 1 billion or more for the year. There are 14 for just 2018 alone. And on the right, we have a graph depicting 1980 to 2018, the billion-dollar disaster event frequency in the United States. And as we can see, they've all been climbing. Now, although there are many gloomy assessments for what is to come, there are actions we can take now to minimize risks and to perhaps start to reverse course on climate change. We must instill in our peers and within our organizations the importance of mitigation. Mitigation and preparedness efforts would serve communities nationwide in minimizing damage to property, and reducing the risk of lives being lost. We will have challenges in the future, but if we start to embrace sustainable models for energy now, our future trials could be minimized. There are many cities and countries that are starting to adopt methods of sustainable and renewable energy, such as Saudi Arabia, South Korea, and Indonesia, just to name a few. Now, in Saudi Arabia, as we know, is a nation often thought to be synonymous with oil. But just this year, the Saudi government tightened efficiency requirements for air conditioners, set fuel economy standards for cars, and required insulation for new buildings. The country also announced Vision 2030, a 15-year plan to become less reliant on oil exports. The proposal includes replacing 14% of the country's current power generating capacity with domestic solar energy. Quite commendable. South Korea has developed greatly within the last 20 or 30 years, particularly in the city of Seoul, where Mayor Park Won-soon believes that locally producing renewable energy can help mitigate the climate crisis. Won-soon, motivated by the nuclear disaster in Fukushima, Japan, which struck in 2011 and caused many, many deaths, launched a campaign encouraging Seoul's 10 million residents to change the way they consume energy. Within just 3 years, the city reduced its net energy consumption by 4%, which again is very positive. Additionally, Park has created a citywide program to pay for solar panels that would generate power for local apartments, homes, and businesses. I think we could see that as a pretty successful strategy if more more big cities around the world would help to pay for their residents' solar panels. Many more people might be inclined to install them. Indonesia has experienced major deforestation for several years due to land clearing for its growing palm oil industry. However, thanks to the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, or RSPO, the palm oil industry is being revolutionized. The nonprofit is certifying growers to become sustainable, and so far, the RSPO has globally certified over 66 growers, accounting for about 20% of the world's palm oil. Another example here in the United States is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They were once known for their steel industry, but are now embracing green practices. It's a model that we should all start to follow. Now, these initiatives are very commendable and shows that the path ahead is not all negative. Surprisingly, some of these changes are being put forth by countries that have an abundance of fossil fuels, such as Saudi Arabia. Hopefully, these models will be followed and vastly expanded upon soon. Now, in conclusion, I would just like to state that anthropogenic climate change has caused hurricanes to become more powerful and destructive. This is a course that is projected to become ever more prominent in the ensuing decades. Unfortunately, this will pose many challenges to emergency managers and all communities that will be directly or indirectly affected by these inclinations. It is up to us as a nation to put forth legislation and regulations in the future that would accept sustainable and renewable energy, materials, and practices as the standard. We must also come together as local communities and adopt the resiliency measures as part of everyday life. These collective measures could serve to benefit the safety, stability, and resiliency of our country for generations to come.